Hey guys, how you doing? Thought we'd go a little bit deeper and darker into the world of the Smith-Morra Gambit. In response to a couple of very interesting comments. So Jose, mate, said, wait until you come across some of the fun killers in the Smith-Morra. And also Dennis said, well, how do you play against it as black? And I thought actually that there's maybe quite a lot to be gained from thinking, what is the best way for your opponent to counter your opening, particularly as you advance? So, I thought we'd just do a little bit of an exercise, okay? Now, so I've created a new study here, okay, and the Smith-Morra Gambit comes from the Sicilian and so on. So the first thing that I've done here is I've got it set to the Lichess database, but higher than my rating. So this is like my Smith-Morra future-proofing study. Okay, let's put it this way. So if I'm 1800 something right now on Lichess, I've got it set to 2022-25. Okay, and what are black's best options here? Well, actually, E6 is 1. That's got 46%, so I'm looking at these. G6 seems to be actually best at that level for black. Okay, so let's do a G6 expert, for example. Okay, set to interactive lesson, and we're going to explore G6 now. So you can now look at this. So D takes C5 seems to be quite winning. That is also Stockfish's recommendation. Take the pawn. Okay, so that's definitely one way to look at it. That's the third most played move, but it is the winningest move, along with Knight C3 at 50%, and H4 at 50% as well. So these all seem like decent options. So how do we decide? Well, Vitualis, Chess Noob, in the comments also mentioned that he has also switched away from the Grand Prix attack to the Mora a few months ago. So he's a bit ahead of me. Follow his channel if you're not following it already. And he mentioned that he has the book Mayhem in the Mora by international master Mark is it Esserman? So, and then somebody also in my last Chess Bootcamp live session last week showed me a little technique, and I'm now going to share it with you. So we haven't gone anywhere, we're still in Lichess. Okay, now what you need to do is you need to find, where is it? You need to find the player. If you know that there's like an expert player, do a search for this, or just do like a Google search for Mark Esserman Lichess. Okay, so I know that Mark Esserman is the man on the Smith-Morra, and then what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to find. Here he has a page about him as a streamer, him as a coach, and there we go. And this is his Lichess username. So you need to get his Lichess username, which is Master of Mayhem, okay? With 2 S's in master. So you can copy that. You can come to here. You click on player. Okay, now this is already set to him, okay? You click the cog icon, and it will default to you, right? So I've seen this once in my Lichess career, and I played C3 and went on to win the game. Lucky me. Well done. Against Junkie Drogo. However, if I click that, I flip it, and I can just put their username in, select him. So now we get to see, what does Esserman play against 2G6? Okay, now Esserman. Oh, look! This might be a bit of a deal killer. Okay, He's played knight f3 12 times with a 50% win rate. He's played d takes a few times and maybe done a little bit better in that. So we could try d takes. So we can even just switch between the Lichess. So d takes does quite well, and our expert player tends to play knight f3. But let's see if there's a winning line in knight f3, because that's his preferred one. Oh, look. So from this position, that's a bit weird. The Sicilian hyper-accelerated fianchetto. Gosh. And the most common move that he will face here is c takes d4. And then he pushes c3 anyway. Okay, he's got a 54 against 46 rate here. They fianchetto the bishop, and we've now got 140 games because we've transposed. Right. I get it. Now he tends to play bishop c4, which is the normal developing move. They play e6, and he captures here with a knight. And Esserman from here goes on to win 62% of the games, and there have been 53 games in that. Okay, now let's just go over that again on with the Lichess kind of strong intermediate. So they decline. Okay, so here they do take, and black does a bit better from this point. So I'm just playing through now. Now we play c3 like normal. Okay, it's just that the move order is just a bit messed up. They fianchetto, and here at our level, most players take towards the center like that. The second most common move is bishop c4, and knight takes is the third most common move, but that doesn't score very well. Bishop c4 scores best, and that is what Esserman plays as well. You know? And nobody knows this attack more than Mark Esserman. So now e6 again is the most commonly played move, and here this is where the strong intermediates differ from the specialist, because they tend to take here with the pawn, and they don't do terribly well. They got a 44 against 50% win rate, right? Castles, they get 47, 46. Knight takes d4 is only played 7% of the time. And by the way, thank you, Lichess, for showing the percentages without having to hover. I really appreciate that. Knight takes d4 wins an average 49% of the time. And that appears to be, okay, bishop b3, but that's only been played a couple of hundred times. Bishop g5 as well has done quite well. That's been played 200 times odd. But I would go with Esserman, right? Because whatever he plays, I know is going to work against really strong players as well. So there we go. So here again, I would play knight takes d4. Okay, so this is my g6 expert. Let's see how it goes from there. Well, let's see. Let's go back to Esserman. Right? He tends to see knight e7 the most. And obviously, you can go into branches and lines from this. And then, wow, bishop g5. 13 games, and it looks like he's won 10 of them. Something like that. Okay, so now he plays bishop g5. Okay, let's click back to Lichess again, and we go back a few moves. Now, here white doesn't do that well, so we take here. They, again, knight e7 is the most common move. d5 is also played. All right, so you might want to look into all of that. But this is the point, you know, the point is not the specific details of this, but to show a method that you could use to prepare for the kind of future-proofing your openings, right? But also to go back to, was it Dennis's comment? How do you play against it? Well, again, it depends on your level, right? But I mean, I have obviously lots of studies. For example, if I just go into my studies, let's say I've got the white pieces against the Caro-Kann, so I've got like von Hennig Gambit against the Caro-Kann. Okay, so this is against a particular opening. So this is the Caro-Kann, and they will nearly always play d5. I know this. So yeah, this is pretty much the same thing. I could create a how to play against the Mora, but let's just flip back to this. Okay, so depending on your level, okay, so I've got this still set to Lee Chess database 2000 and upwards, right? So why not G6? That's the point. G6 will throw a lot of Mora players off their guard, and it appears to be the winningest continuation here. And black does pretty well in most lines. So yeah, I could do a whole video on how to play against the Mora, but it wouldn't be very useful for me because I'm not a Sicilian player, so I don't face the Mora. You know what I mean? But you know how to create your own studies, so why not go dive in and do it for yourself? So yeah, I mean, look, if I was a C5 player, if I played the Sicilian, I would want to know how to respond to the Mora, but I'm not, because I play E5 against E4, and I know what to do, for example, against the Scandinavian, and so on and so forth. So, and the Italian and Spanish, and that I've got my whole repertoire for that. So yes, I hope that's useful for you guys. I wonder what other deal breakers there are other than G6. So let's just have a little scroll on here. Knight C6 we're happy about. So there's a kind of declined Knight C6 line. We're not too. That looks okay. That is definitely the better line. So E6. Now the thing is, I've got my normal Smith-Mora, right? So in fact, I've also got a studies white Sicilian Smith-Mora declined study. So is there a declined E6? Appears not. Okay, so let's have a declined E6. E6 is actually the second most common move. How come I haven't had a declined E6 before? Okay, well, that's interesting. Or maybe it's not that common at 1800, 2000. It's still the third most common at 1800, 2000. So there you go. So I'll set it back to kind of higher than me. E6, is that going to make us unhappy? Well, apparently D5 is there. D5 is the most common move, but also Knight F3 and also C3. And they all do fairly well. But I would be curious to know what Master of Mayhem plays. Master of Mayhem plays Knight F3. So I'm going to consider that. Knight F3 by him. Knight F3 does okay. Let's do that. Because it's Esserman, and he knows his stuff. So most common move now is CD. And then the players take. Does Esserman take? No, he does not. He plays C3. And then what do our opponents do? They'll take there. What does Esserman do? This is cool. You can flick back between for black, we're looking at the players database, and for white, we're flipping to the international master. He plays knight takes. This is fascinating stuff, and he wins 64% of the time from this position. Okay, so that I think is pretty cool. So obviously, if you wanted to, let's say you're not a Sicilian player, and let's say you're not wanting to know how to counter the Smith-Mora, you'll need to know, okay, well, what do I do? So if you want to play the classical Dutch, you'd follow Simon Williams, and so on and so forth. If you want to play the Stafford Gambit, you might look up Eric Rosen's games on Lichess and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, I thought that was very, very nerdy. Very nerdy, but kind of interesting too. And I've actually stumbled on a whole new thing here. So A6 is very common here. Oops, no, A6 is common, but A6 is also most common at the high intermediate level. Coolio, Iglesias. So now, flip back over, and now we play Bishop C4. Yeah. It's what we always see. And now B5 is common, and then Bishop B3, we drop it back, But this is, I really am then building my little repertoire around what the very best players do. So, I thought that was fascinating. Hope it's been fascinating for you. Thank you for watching. See you soon.